and I'm going to give you a basic introduction into forging a horseshoe. First, I want to say a little bit about why we should today, in the modern world where keg shoes are very available, why we should practice making horseshoes. Making a horseshoe is a lot of training skills, and these skills, they make us more precise in what we do when we are adapting horseshoes to feet. It makes us more able to solve problems where we can modify and we can manipulate steel. And the best way of practicing this is actually to learn how to make horseshoes. So we learn it when we are training farriers, and we practice it later on in a career as well, which keeps us sharp. First, a little bit about safety. The fire is here. How we will light the fire would be obvious maybe, but we always light the fire. We'll open the door first. We make sure that the bottle is open, not more than half a turn bowl. Then we put on gas, not full open, and then we hit the igniter like this. Then we can open for full gas. Now we'll heat up. Also, the tools we are using, always make sure that they are in good shape, that they know where they're well rounded up on the top where we hit them with the hammer, so they don't chip off and hurt us. We should always use and wear goggles to protect our eyes, and air protection. This is the easiest form, but you can get them as advanced as you like. We will fit the anvil to the height we are. I like to keep an anvil not too low. Normally it would be with about the height of my knuckles, like this. And I like a movable tool table, which I can keep in reaching distance, so I don't have to go over and fetch or bend on the floor to get tools. I would like it positioned about here, where I lay out the tools, and I only keep the tools that I am using for this shoe on the table. Everything else is cleared away. The tools we need for horseshoe making is obviously an anvil. I like about 90-100 kilo anvil with this pattern here. The height needs to be, as I said, height of my knuckles. If you can secure it to the floor, it's best, because it won't move around and it will also be a bit more silent. Here today I will use a gas forge, double burner. Gas forges are very efficient. They won't get it as hot as a coke forge, but it's efficient and it's clean and easy to get gas wherever you are. Coke can be a bit more troublesome to get in some areas and also a bit more expensive. Let's look at the hand tools. Forging hammer, obviously one of the most important stuff. You will find many different weights for forging hammers. You will. This one is a GDM. It's about 950 grams, I think, just a hammer. This one is balanced quite well for me. It's equally balanced. Got good striking surface and a good handle that fits my hand. The main thing with this is, like, we call it a rounding hammer. So it's got a round end there and a flat end here, which we're using when we are bending, and we're using when we're forging and flattening here. Good length on the handle, adapted to each person. You can change this a little bit around and what balance it is in the hammer and all of that. That's a lifelong experience. And these few tools we need. We want a ruler. I use a ruler which got centimeters on one side and it got inches on the other side. There are, in farriery, obviously we use a lot of inches, because a lot of the farriery we are using is from terminology is from England and US, so that's why it could be quite handy to have one with the metric and the imperial measurements on it. A center punch to make marks in the steel. a divider like this, caliper, where we can put up measurements for wherever we want, for example, nail holes and fullerings and stuff. This is a fuller which makes the crease where the nail holes are going to go in. This is a stamp which fits into the crease. And here is a pritchel which will open the nail hole later on. And of course a good pair of tongs. You need tongs for the sections that you're using. So if you're going to use 10mm section, you need a tongue that fits for 10mm. That will not fit for 8mm, for example. So you're going to need tongs for each dimension you're going to use, like 6, 8, 10 and 12 would be the normal ones. Also like a little bit of grease for tools that I could cool it down and lubricate. There's various different on the market, all of them good. Wire brush to brush off scales, and a fine brush to really make it nice and clean and finish off in the end. For clipping, we will use a ball peen hammer, or we can also use various shapes of cross peen hammers, depending on the style of clip we want. There are also different bob punches or whatever that, but we can get into that in a different video. Before we start making shoes, obviously, we're going to decide what dimension and what size, what length we're going to use for this particular foot, or if we're copying a specimen. So the shoe I'm going to make now, I'm going to make a standard front shoe. I'm going to make it from 25 by 10 and 35 centimeters long. And I'm going to mark it slightly off center so I can run up the inner branch and make that a little bit narrower and safer than the outer branch. So meaning like I'm half in the distance here, 35 to that is 17.5, and I'm just slightly moving it about 2mm to the side, which makes this end 4mm longer than the inside. Okay, small mark, and I put it over here on the corner, because then the steel is going to be more stable. And I'll make a good solid mark, which makes that a little dent in the outside and makes it easier for me to see even from the other side like this. Since this is my outside, I'll put a mark in there so I know where that is the whole time. And I always like it to make the mark on the inside web, so when I'm bending the toe, I know when this is up, when that is down, this is where I'm going to hit to bend the toe. Now it goes in the fire. Holding it in the end here, putting it in. We light the fire again by open up the door, put on a little bit pressure, open up, and then full pressure. We see here now that we got 2 flames, and I want big heat now in the toe, which is there, so I'm putting the mark under the flame there, and then we're going to leave it until we reach the correct temperature for the first step of the forging. The first step is going to be bumping the toe. So now here we got a long heat, even heat. I mean, I'm cooling it down in each end now to have enough heat in the middle to compress material, so you have a bit more material in the toe. Which I'm cooling it down like this now, so we got each end cold and just about a third in the middle warm. Now putting it back in now, because in the process of cooling it down I also lost quite a bit of heat in the middle as well. So now the next step in cooling down would actually keep the heat more in the middle, and I got more heat to work with. And the heat that I want is as warm as I can get it, which means bright yellow, maybe even white if I can get that, but that would be hard in a gas forge. There. Now it takes a lot less time to cool down to get that even heat there. Up on the top, using the round of my hammer, hitting down, starting with quick light blows. See, when it starts to turn into an S like that, I can correct myself by moving it over, contact with the outside corner and hit the other corner there. This will help me to correct and keep it straight. As it's getting colder, I can hit it harder. Try to keep it in contact with the anvil when you're hitting, so you don't hit it when it's like off the anvil like that. When it very easy bounces off and you're hitting it in the air, that will take away a lot of the energy. I'm not flattening it, I'm just straightening it. When we bumped in what we think we need, I always like to be in control and check it. You can see here now, this needs a little bit more, which is 1.5 centimeter, and I want it to be 2.5 centimeter or an inch in this. So I'm going to give it another little heat. In this heat now, I'm going to bump in a little bit more, and I'm going to set up the section ready. So carry on bumping. Checking myself, how much I get in there. It's very important to know how much you're bumping in, because that will affect the size of your shoe later on. Okay, there we go. That is 25 mil. Now we're going to set the section up, meaning that I'm going to make the outside a bit thicker and the inside a bit thinner. I'm doing it in this way. I'm hitting with an angle from the middle of the section and out, and like this. Now we can see that now it's growing in width without stretching the material out. Now I'm going on, going to flatten it, and I'm flattening now on the inside of the section, like from the outside and out. From the middle and out, sorry. Like this. I can also knock the edges off. Now you can see I increased the thickness, the width, and it's now slightly thinner on the inside, which will help me when I come to the next stage, where I'm going to make the toe bend, where the outside perimeter will stretch and the inside edge will compress, and then we will end up with an almost equal thickness of the material, of the section. Next step now is to make the toe bend. The toe bend is going from toe quarter to toe quarter and going to be the same shape as the toe of the foot. Okay, before we take it out now, we're going to make sure that we have the right temperature. Very important to have a nice even temperature all the way, because if it's uneven, we will make an uneven bend. So I'm also making sure now that I grab the the steel in the right way, so I know that I have the punch mark in the toe towards me as I take it out. I want it to be locked inside the tongs like this at a 90 degrees angle. Take it out, hold it over the beak and hit on 1/3 there and 1/3 there. As I'm hitting, I'm also raising my tongue hand like this. So now I broke the back of the steel. Now I'm gonna finish the toe bend by placing the toe quarter on the beak, hitting the other side and lowering my tongue hand. Same here. And you can see here now, we created a nice even bend from toe quarter to toe quarter. Now we're going to finish this off by flattening and doing a bit of hammer finish. So now I'm flattening on the inside edge, around, overlapping blows. Same here. And one little interesting fact here is we need to know about forging. That's control of the material. So we need to know what is happening when we're hitting the material. And one little fact that could be very, very easily overlooked, but it's very important, is that where we are hitting with a hammer, the material expands more. So when I'm hitting on this side, I'm flattening here, this surface expands more than that surface. So, if I'm only hitting on one side, flattening from one side, I'm going to create an uneven rectangular in the cross section. So when we are forging, it's important to forge equally much from each angle and each side. To pack it together, stretch it out, so it creates an even section. Also, do a little bit of a hammer finish, just knock the edges off. This is also, so it'll be easier for me to see the shape in the shoe and in the toe band. Like this there. There you go. On the same heat now, I'm going to mark where my first nail hole and my full ring is coming. I'm placing the shoe with this heel there, so equally symmetrical over the anvil. I put on my ruler, so that is parallel to the edge of the anvil like this, and it goes on the inside edge of the toe bend there, and I draw a line over. This is where my first nail hole will come. Okay. Since we are fullering on this one, I'm gonna put the fuller a little bit further up than the first nail hole to make room for the fuller in front. So I'm using my calipers, dividers there. I'm going to put in the first mark where the fuller in, just to mark it, and right there. I want to like a full stop, even full stop there. That's why I'm holding it up. And I'm hitting slightly on the edge there to push the edge of my fuller into the steel. When I've done that, I'm going to start to hem. Hem means that I am pushing the material in order for full ring to push the material out. So we keep the same section. Like this, there. I also like the worth mentioning is like how coarse should the fullering go. The coarseness of the fuller that determines where the nail holes come. So if we have very fine walls, or we're going to have a very tight fit, we want the fuller to be, or the nail holes to be a bit finer, meaning further out, meaning then we have to put the fullering a bit further out there. If it's thicker hoof walls, so we're going to have a wide fit, we want the fullering to be coarser, further in. And this is when I decide that now, that's when I start marking it. And I'm going here, this one pretty standard, just outside of the middle of the section. Now we're going to forge the heel. And the shape of the heel that determines by what kind of fit we want, what kind of style shoeing, whatever. Now we're going to make kind of a normal riding horse pleasure fit, which means that we're going to have a check on the inside. Going to forge that in, and then we're going to have a rounded outside, where the center is going to be, the center of the heel is going to be in the middle here. This is where we want to be. So I'm going to start hitting in this corner, and I'm going to make this, hit that corner in, forge that in, and then like this in there to make the check. We're going to make it so it's 100% perpendicular to the material everywhere. All the lines line up like this, and then we will make a heel that will look exactly the same from the back side as from the front side. When we're forging the heel, we want it to be as hot as possible. Starting from the outside edge, go to the inside, and very important that I'm going in at an angle that no less than 45 degrees. Making sure that all the lines are perpendicular. So this line there is perpendicular to that and that line and that line there. If we do that right, we should quite easily be able to achieve this. What we're going to do now is that we're going to bend the branch. Then it's very important to have in mind what kind of shape we want it to be, what kind of shape is in the foot, and now we're going to have a wide fit, a tight fit, wherever. So, and that shape determines right where we're going to work on the beak. So, I'm putting the beak on the middle of where the widest point going to be. That's in between the toe and the heel, middle there. Hitting the heel. Hitting out there and lowering my hand, and there I will have a shape to start with there. The widest point is in the right place, lines up with the heel nail, and we can go further from there. Next step now, that is hemming. Hemming is to knock the edge off, so we give room for the material to expand when we're going to full it. I hem it to about 2/3 of the width of the section, the thickness of the section, like this, and just knock the edge off, push in. Don't flatten it at this stage too much. You can flatten the inside if you want to, but not the outside edge. Right now I want to keep the material there before we're going to fuller, and then we're going to flatten it to make it nice and crisp. Now I'm going to mark my fullering now. Whoop. That's my cue for it's getting too cold. start to bounce too much. Okay, that's it. In again. Now we're going to fuller. That means put a crease into the material where we're going to later on put nail holes into it. The reason why we want to crease is two reasons. It's easier to make nail holes and it also provides a little bit of grip. So what's important now, we're going to do it in 3 stages. First I'm going to sink the fuller in about halfway the thickness. Then of the material. Then I'm going to hem it again, work the section. Then I'm going to sink it in to about 2/3. And later on I'm going to go a little bit further and also open the end, but then it's getting colder and that's in the end of the process. When I hit the fuller now, make sure it's straight up, so when I hit on the top with the rounded side, it sinks straight in. As soon as I start doing this, we will displace the fuller, the crease, and we're not going to be that accurate, and we're going to lose a lot of force as well. So try to keep it straight up and hit with the round of the hammer on the top. We want a yellow heat now, not too hot, because that's going to distort the section too much. Starting here, lifting up a bit, hitting on the corner, maybe I'm only moving my fuller a little bit at a time, maybe not more than 5 mil at a time. Sometimes it's easy that the fuller goes out of the section like this. We want to follow the inside line, outside line to make these lines parallel. If the fuller tends to go out of the section towards the toe, we can do this. We lift up and we hit on the outside corner there. That will make the fuller follow around like that. Good little trick there. Okay, now about halfway down the section, flatten it. Hem it again. Like that. Now we have halfway through the fullering procedure. I'm going to give it that small little cheeky heat now, just up to red, and we're going to carry on fullering and also get some nail holes in there. Second run with a fuller now. Down to about 2/3. At this heat here now, like just like dark red, we can put in the nail holes. I want the first one to be a couple of mil back from the top. I want the last one to be at the widest point, and then I want the second one here in the middle. Well done too. I'm not going all the way down now. I'm going to leave that to last. Clean the anvil. Now it's getting colder now, but we can still just open up and finish off at this heat. Well, that is my cue, that is getting too cold. I'm going to give it a little cheeky heat. More. Right, when we are practicing, it's all right. It's very important that always very important that we are working at the right temperature. So when we're practicing, it's very good, very important that we actually stop, put it in, get the heat that we want, and then carry on. So I call it a cheeky heat. It's not necessarily the pace I want to work in, but I'm still making sure that I'm working, doing the right things at the right temperature. Dark cherry red. Open up the fuller end after my hammer finish. Now I can go all the way down to the anvil with my stamp, and we can open up the nail holes with a Pritchel. Okay. See now what I'm doing is when I'm removing the shoe from the Pritchel, I'm running my hammer down the inside like that. If I'm doing it there or the other side, it's more risky that I actually break the Pritchel. So by doing that, I find that a very safe and easy way of getting the shoe off the Pritchel. Okay, give it a little brush now. This. Before we do the proper leveling now, or flattening now, I'll just make sure that I get out if there's any lumps or bumps here. Look for them. And when I've done that, now I can proper flatten it. And what I do now when I'm going to flatten this branch now is like first, I'm going to get rid of scales. I'm going to flatten it, and I'm going to push the shoe into the anvil by use my wrist like this to push the tongs forward, just like twist the wrist a little bit, push it into the anvil, and then I'm gonna, when I'm flattening now, my hammer, I'm gonna go for the middle of the section, not the outside, I'm in the middle and in. Okay. Now it will create this nice even surface, and you see you have a nice crisp fullering there. Okay, then we're going to make the inside. Inside branch, I'm going to safe off a little bit, and I do that like this, and just forging that edge in, rounding that in like that. There you go, inside. Okay, there we go. This is the finished 3/4 fullered shoe, front shoe. We have a definite outside and a definite inside. We got good nail placement, nice and safe, not too coarse, not too fine, strong, good toe. From here on, we can, of course, go further. We can toe clip it or side clip it. We can put in whatever features we want into it. We can rasp it, or we can choose to keep it hammer finished. But this is the basic horseshoe that we all need to learn how to do. So hope it was helpful, and good luck with your practice.